On today's episode of Andy Ari On3, presented by Polymarket, On3 releases its preseason All-America team. Couple things jump out. Quarterback and running back from Ole Miss. They made semis last year. Yet they're not getting the most buzz to go back to the playoff. Are we wrong on that? Also, there's a lot of Longhorns on that list. A lot of Longhorns. We'll break down all of the All-Americans, first team through third team, because there's some very telling things in those lists. Plus, Florida introduces throwback uniforms honoring Steve Spurrier's Heisman season of 1966. Meanwhile, new coach John Sumrall gets on the mic and sounds an awful lot like Steve Spurrier. The question is, can he coach like Steve Spurrier? We'll break that down. Plus, the new Purdue AD tried to come in like Kirk Cignetti, didn't quite get that right. He apologized, but we will delve into what he said. Is it possible what he said? If he'd said it a little better? We'll talk about it all today on Andy Ari On3, presented by Polymarket. We got a new sponsor alert, Ari. We are now brought to you by Polymarket. That's right, available in all 50 states. Download that Polymarket app, and now we're taking positions.
It's what we're always doing.
We're moving markets.
It feels great. Yeah, we're market movers, guys.
Exactly. So this works very much like what you're used to. The difference is, well, if you've traded soybean futures or pork bellies, you're really going to know what's going on. But basically, you're taking a position, saying something to the tune of, I don't know, I think Auburn will win more than 7.5 games. And based on how many other people take the position either with you or against you, that changes your payout. And it also changes as the season goes on. So you've got that. You've also got positions you can take on games that are going on right now, like Major League Baseball, or once college football gets kicked off, there will be positions on games that are going on. There will be spreads. It will be very similar to what you're used to. So download the Polymarket app and use the code ON3. New users get $20 when they deposit $10 on sign-up. So you deposit $10, you get $20 from Polymarket, and you start trading. Ari,
it feels like football season, man. We're here. We're in the studio. We're in Nashville together in the flesh, and there's nothing better than my two favorite things in the entire world, Andy: college football and trading.
That's right. So let's start trading with Polymarket. Download that app. Use the code ON3. When you deposit $10, you get $20 right off the bat. Ari, let's have a show.
Let's have a show.
18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Not available in all jurisdictions. Trading is risky. 100% loss can occur. Welcome to Andy and Ari On3, presented by Polymarket. And Ari, the preseason rollout has begun. We had the coaches poll last week. We have our On3 Preseason All-America team today. We've got, spoiler alert, the On3 Top 25 coming out later this week as well. But this All-America team, I got to say, so Chris Lowe wrote it. And this is usually how you structure an All-America team, where you have the quarterback first and the running back, and you just list the positions that way. But I got to say, it jumped off the page to me when I look at it. And the first two guys are from Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey, quarterback, running back. And I thought to myself, I might have messed up on my playoff projection last week because I left the Rebels out.
Well, before we get into this, I just want to say, too, that I watched Chris Lowe source the information. He was circling around the On3 offices, showing everybody his list and asking opinions and names. So, he wrote this, but he did a really good job, I think, of getting different secondary opinions. But, Andy, I know that, you and I are friends and we're, usually in agreement. Can I ask you a stupid question? What did you think it was going to say, a quarterback and running back? Like, it's not like it's a surprise.
I know. And here's where I was, and I was thinking about this as we were walking around the personnel symposium last week, talking to people about who they liked, who they want to see more improvement from. And when I was making my swing and trying to fit Michigan in there, I was like, okay, so who among the teams that most people would put in the playoff do I take out? I took out Ole Miss. but I should have asked the question, like, who do I trust more in this situation? Do I trust Trinidad Chambliss or do I trust John Mateer more? And I think the answer is Trinidad Chambliss. So I should have taken Oklahoma out, left Ole Miss in. I think that's where I messed up.
Well, when you're doing this, so the thing that I think is interesting about the Ole Miss situation is, a year after we just got done watching a team that had 4 picks taken in the top 11 lose in the quarterfinals of the playoff. When you're making these projections, I think it's very easy to be reliant or even over-reliant on who's playing quarterback for the specific team. Mm-hmm. And I think that as we're doing this segment too, we should have an actual discussion about whether or not you believe that Trinidad Chambliss actually is the best quarterback in college football, because I think there's some debate to that.
No, you look at I'm glad you said that, because I want to have that discussion, because while I think there's probably some debate, that's who I would choose. Yeah.
So I did a list earlier in the offseason, and I got absolutely torn apart for this. Do you remember? It was the top 10.
This was, you didn't know Trinidad was definitely coming back, right? He was still dealing.
No, this was post Trinidad coming back. I didn't have it on my quarterbacks list, but I had top 10 overall returning players, and I had Arch Manning, and it was the only quarterback on the list.
You screwed that up. You should have had Trinidad on that list.
So Trinidad was not, and Ole Miss fans, maybe rightfully, got angry at me.
Yeah.
And I'm just coming to the conclusion, because this is the same conclusion that Chris Lowe came to when he was surveying the story, because Arch Manning is his second teamer, that maybe Trinidad Chambliss, and I think that most personnel people, I think I'm okay with saying I might be wrong on that, especially considering the fact that he was so magical in the biggest games of the year last year. He was good all throughout the year, and he got him in the playoff, but don't you think that Chambliss played his best football when the entire country was watching?
I agree with that. And here's the thing. If you're an NFL scout, yes, you're going to take Arch Manning. You're probably going to take CJ Carr. You'll probably like those guys better.
Yeah.
But if you're just building a college football team, well, who has been the best playing college football based on what we've seen? If you just said, I'm going to have a high stakes college football game, which quarterback playing right now has performed the best, has been magical in high stakes college football games? I think you go Trinidad Chambliss based on what we saw at the end of the last regular season and into the playoff.
Just a thought exercise, though, because I like talking about Trinidad. How many times do you think, Andy, in the past, when you're trying to project who the best player was in college football going into the year, that the person that was most proven the previous year ends up being the answer the following year? I think that that is a pretty easy thing to do when you're trying to make these offseason lists. Just rely on what we've seen, but there has to be some element of projection when it comes to how you go about this.
For sure. I'll give you an example. 2012, Johnny Manziel wins the Heisman Trophy. He's, I think he led the SEC in rushing in 2012. His passing numbers were also awesome. Going into 2013, we're talking about, is this going to be the first 2-time winner since Archie Griffin? And he actually had a great season in 2013. His stats were incredible. But the guy who won the Heisman didn't even play in 2012 because he was redshirting. It's Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston was categorically better than Johnny Manziel in 2013. So that's true. I'm trying to think of the last time the quarterback we thought coming into the year who had been, the most proven the year before was the best. Bryce Young, maybe?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield in 2017 for sure. Marcus Mariota in 2014, definitely. But it's not, you're right, it does not happen every single year.
What I think looking back at the previous year does for you is I think it makes you, or it defines clearly what the basement or the floor is for that player. We know for a fact that Trinidad's going to be really good. That said, it's hard to quantify who people that will be competing against him in the Heisman race and on the field might not have a better overall ceiling. So I think it's easy to rely on what you saw last year because definitively what he is at his best. And he's not going to be bad. There are certain things and I think this is an Arch Manning discussion too, because I had him ahead and he was the second team quarterback on this list. But Arch Manning's ceiling so far, I don't think has been defined yet. I think that Arch Manning paled in comparison in terms of production and how good he was to Trinidad a year ago. But I don't think that necessarily, creates a defined line of who's going to have a better season. So, I think it's a safer pick to go with Trinidad. I don't know if it's a bona fide obvious answer. So, and I think that that's kind of just the way that we identify college football in general, which is, what have you done for me lately? And it's a whole new season, and last year's playoff run isn't going to win at Ole Miss any games. And, we have to go out and perform in a way that, might not have been seen a year ago. And that's pressure on Arch. It's pressure on everybody. It's like Lenore Sellers is facing as much pressure at that position and isn't on any of these lists as just about anybody in college football. But in terms of like lowest floor or highest floor, Trinidad makes sense on this list.
Well, and Trinidad also has Kewan Lacey, which is a huge safety blanket. You've got a running back who you're talking about, 6 yard a carry guy. That makes a huge difference. So you're going to get defenses that are terrified of what Kewan Lacey can do, and they're going to have to put extra guys in the box to deal with him, because Ole Miss, we know, is going to run the ball. It's a new offensive coordinator in John David Baker, but we know he's smart enough to look at the box and say, I have Kewan Lacey. If the box is light, I'm going to run the ball with Kewan Lacey. And don't forget,
I don't know how often the box is going to be light against this team, but they're going to run it anyway.
But here's the other part. You also have to account for Trinidad Chambliss running as well. So, Trinidad is going to have opportunities to have one-on-one matchups with his receivers down the field. And it is going to be a situation that I think he can take advantage of. Now, if Trinidad Chambliss is not the best QB in America, so he does, and best QB in America, probably going to win the Heisman, probably going to have his team in the national title hunt. If it's not him, who is it?
Before I answer that, because I need to unpack that mentally, I wanted to ask you, though, because as we go through, and I think another topic that we're going to have here is that there are 4 Longhorns on the first team All-American list, and neither are Arch Manning or Cam Coleman, which gives you an idea of how good that team is. When you look at Ole Miss and you look at Trinidad, I think that he has a really good chance of winning the Heisman because he doesn't have other stars. I know Kewan Lacey's there, but running back.
I was going to say, Kewan Lacey runs for 1,900 yards. He may win the Heisman.
But winning the Heisman as a running back is even harder than winning it as a receiver, isn't it? Like, it's really difficult.
No, it's easier than winning it as a receiver historically.
You think it is historically? Okay.
I know it is historically.
I wanted to ask you about Ole Miss's team, though. If they're a playoff team and if they, make the, SEC championship game or whatever it is that they do, don't you think that the perception will be that Trinidad and or Kewan Lacey dragged them there? And I think that actually has a huge impact on the Heisman Trophy.
They're not bereft of talent on their roster, are you? They've got.
No, I
players.
know, but
they have more players on this All-America list. If you go down, as the list goes on, so I don't think that's an issue. I think we're going to see Ole Miss have some stars emerge, which that happened every year in the Lane Kiffin era, where you didn't know some of these guys initially, and then they blew up, which I think is probably going to happen this year for them too.
Can I give you a bonus player I'm like secretly excited about, but kind of admitted or scared to admit on a podcast because I'm going to look like a recruiting simp? Do you know who's one of the receivers this year? I don't know if you'll guess who I'm going to say. Do you know who I'm going to say?
Chris Marshall?
No, Jonte Cook is on that team.
Jonte. Sorry. Wrong guy who'd been at like 4 different schools.
Yeah. But Jonte Cook has been at 4 different schools because he's gotten into some trouble.
Right, and Chris Marshall also had gotten into some trouble. So
those guys are very talented players. So as the season goes, if they can get their acts turned around and play at a high level, like those could be some pretty exciting players too. So Ole Miss, overall, Andy, I think you might have made the wrong decision, but at the same time, I think sometimes making the wrong decision unintentionally in the offseason also turns out to be the right thing because the season is insane and nobody knows.
Well, I'm still fascinated by who this is, because obviously Arch Manning is the name on top of everyone's list. But I you could have a comeback from Lenore Sellers to a 2024 vintage type season, which would be really good. He'd look amazing in that case. CJ Carr at Notre Dame, I think, is going to be better than he was last year, and they're going to rely on him more than last year because they lose 2 first-round running backs, and they have maybe the deepest receiving core they've had in years.
So your question that you're answering right now are like which players have a pretty good shot of winning the Heisman.
Well, no, I mean, if Trinidad Chambliss is not the best QB in America by the end of the year, who is? Like who takes that mantle from him?
Okay. Well, I mean, there's one name that hasn't been mentioned and isn't on the list as a first or second teamer that has Oregon fans pulling their hair out, which is the quarterback that could have been in the top 5 pick of the NFL draft a year ago. And they have a really good team, and Oregon too is obviously expected to be represented on this list.
And Dante Moore is going to have more people to throw to, because remember, his receivers had terrible injury luck last year.
Yeah. No, exactly. But in terms of like who's going to be the shining star, there are a few dark horses I want to go through, because obviously like we're talking about Dante Moore isn't good for the pod. Everyone knows Dante Moore is good. So Oregon fans don't get upset that we're not like,
no, he's great.
We know he's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here are the names that I think are like, if I were to do long shot Heisman, projections, or people that I think will be in the mix there. And these aren't like huge underdogs, but people that aren't in the same class as Arch Manning and even Trinidad. Like Jaden Mayava is one, where if he has a really good year, he's going to be productive. He's in a Lincoln Riley offense. My thought is that they will be more talented across the board. Terrell Anderson, that they brought in from NC State, I think is going to have a really good year at receiver. He's somebody. Darian Mensah is another one. Obviously, he was one of the stars of the offseason because he took a huge payout and left Duke to go to Miami, and it was kind of a huge thing. But like when you look at what they have around him, if Miami can figure out their offensive line, and I think it's a pretty solid bet that they will, it seems like generally impossible that he might not like lead the country in passing this year with Cooper Barkley and of course Malachi Tony.
Interestingly enough, so I'm looking at Polymarket right now. I'm on the app.
Okay.
The Heisman Trophy winner market. It is kind of similar to trying to pick the national champion, where there is no clear-cut favorite. Arch Manning and CJ Carr are tied with 13% of the market. And then Darian Mensah is number 3 at 11%.
Oh, okay.
Behind him, Dante Moore, John Mateer, Julian Say, and Trinidad Chambliss. And Moore has 8%. Mateer, Say, and Chambliss all have 7%. So, like, it is wide open. There's no agreement on this at all.
Okay, and then here's one that might be a good segue, since we've talked about Ole Miss for 10 minutes. Where is Josh Hoover?
That is a great question. He's at 5%. So that is a dark horse. And guess what?
I know he's had some turnover issues. Has been very well documented this offseason by Sonny Dykes and everybody else. But if you look at this All-American list, Andy, River, throw it up again. You might see a few things there that So Carter Smith, I think, is the best offensive tackle in the country. And they have some really good defenders that we know. But here's the thing that I think is most fascinating about this. Obviously, Josh Hoover's not on it, but one of the most impactful transfers, who I think is going to be a huge piece of the puzzle here, is Nick Marsh, and he's not on the first or second team. Obviously, receiver is a very deep position.
But one of their receivers is on the second team.
And their other receiver, who, by the way, is the reason, like, I know that, like, listen, here's a little hot take from 8 months ago. We were at the game, the national championship game. I know Fernando Mendoza's run is going to be played in Bloomington, like above, or just portraits of it in every living room in Bloomington. Let me ask you just a real question. If Charlie Becker did not exist, is Miami the national champion last year?
Yes. And if Charlie Becker doesn't exist, Indiana also loses to Penn State, because the Omar Cooper catch at Penn State is incredible. Unbelievable catch at the end of the game in the end zone. It does not happen without the Charlie Becker catch along the sideline, where he basically defies gravity.
And you still have to give credit for Fernando Mendoza and him executing the back shoulder throws on those fourth downs, because the throws were in the perfect spot for him to reverse and catch it on the back shoulder. But like, when you think about the stage, the moments, the downs, the national championship game, where they were on the road, basically in Miami, like, to execute that play not once but twice perfectly in the biggest moment. I mean, God, the marbles on that guy. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So
but let's talk. So Indiana's also got Tyreek Tucker, the defensive tackle, last seen jawing at Mark Fletcher, or Mark Fletcher Jr. was jawing at him after the national championship game. Elijah Hardy, the linebacker, also on the first team. And then if you go down to the third team, you get a very productive edge guy named Stephen Daly, who as of 2 weeks ago thought he was done with college football. So Indiana, embarrassment of riches. Like, they're just getting guys back that thanks to a federal judge in Colorado, this dude's got another year.
Well, and I know, Andy, that you started the show by saying, hey, I might have made a mistake. I had Indiana in my playoff bracket, so
did I.
But I had them at 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Like I had them picture finishing third in the Big Ten or fourth in the Big Ten. I can't remember I did the math. I can't remember what it was a few weeks ago. Was I wrong for am I being an idiot Curt Cignetti talent doubter right now?
I think we both could be, but I also think it's possible that they're good, but that they're not utterly dominant, because we don't know how good they're going to be with this group. The chemistry is going to be different. I mean, it obviously worked out perfectly. It can't possibly work out better than it did last year, better than going undefeated, beating everybody in your path.
If everything goes,
most of the time beating the crap out of them.
If everything goes absolutely perfect and they have a dream season that you could write in a movie script, it would only match what they did already. It wouldn't exceed. But no, but Andy, if you have the best offensive tackle in the country, you have two really good receivers, your defensive line is very good, and you're coached the way that they are, like that's a pretty good combination for some dominant football. And I think that it goes back to the way that we started the conversation, which is Josh Hoover's turnovers, because he felt like he was like put in a position to have to make plays last year for a TCU team that couldn't run well? Or is this something that's going to rear its ugly head on the biggest stage in the biggest moments? Like, I don't know. I think that like what Indiana does is very much square on his shoulders. And it's a lot to ask. And I got to say, I don't care how big of a genius Curt Cignetti is. You're not going to get the number one overall pick in the NFL draft at quarterback in every offseason. It's not going to happen. So, I think that Fernando Mendoza is a special type of guy who, I'm very high on him. I know he's on a bad team with the Raiders, but I think he's going to be very good because he has the mental makeup. But if the bar is kind of matching what Fernando did last year, I think that that's like an insane thing to expect. So, I think he has to be pretty good. But if Fernando Mendoza was pretty good instead of great last year, then maybe Indiana doesn't win the championship. Like there's a huge difference between those two things.
Yeah. I do think we might still be guilty of underrating Cignetti again, which is crazy after last year.
Yeah, putting Indiana at 10 is underrating them in year 3.
Last year, we were like, leave them out of the way too early top 25, then put them into the preseason top 25 and realize we made that mistake, but not put them in the top 10 where they should have been. And yeah, I think now not putting them in the top 5 might be disrespecting them in another way.
Can I take this conversation into a 3-minute rest area? I want to ask you a question about Indiana, but also kind of like the number one debate right now. And it has always been in college football. How important are logos when it pertains to rankings, getting in the playoff, all these things? I think there's a lot of BYU fans out there that believe that if they had a different helmet, they would have been in the playoff last year. And I think that some of that is crap and some of it isn't. But do you think that Indiana, through their success in winning the national championship, is still dealing at all with brand bias, or do you think that they have completely knocked that down? How many years does it take? What accomplishments does it take before people start viewing Indiana collectively as a college football community the same way they would with a Oregon or an Ohio State or a Texas?
It's interesting that you mentioned Oregon there, because I think Oregon is the one that has overcome that.
Yeah.
Oregon and Clemson are probably the ones that have overcome that the most recently. And obviously Clemson is dealing with what it's dealing with in terms of record now.
Has Indiana overcome it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, and it took Oregon a long time. Oregon played for the national championship twice before people really took them seriously as a year in, year out contender. Yeah. And Indiana has won the national title, gone undefeated. But you hear people say, oh, well, they just caught lightning in a bottle. Guys, they didn't catch lightning in a bottle. This dude clearly knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Now, is he going to win the national title every year? Of course not. But is it possible that he's going to have a good team and possibly a top of the Big Ten type team every single year? It is definitely possible. If you can, in 2 years, win the freaking national title at Indiana, you can put a consistently good product on the field year after year.
Yeah, my perception is interesting on this, because I think that like winning the national championship obviously is the ultimate middle finger to anybody who doubted you. Like, because there's literally, you can't say anything about an unbeaten team that won it all. But I think that in order to break down the brand bias, and the reason why you definitively said no when I asked you that question is, it isn't about a single season, the biggest challenge that a lot of these lower tier brands face is that it's about time in the spotlight. And I know that winning the national championship might give you one of those like Mario Kart like boosters and you boost you to the front of the line. But the reason why Oregon has beaten the brand bias thing is not because they won a national championship. They still have yet to do it. It's because Oregon's actually very good every year, and they've been good every year, so people accept them as being very good. I still think Indiana has years to go, and if they make the playoff again, maybe I'll be wrong about that, but it's about time in the limelight, and I don't care how good you are. Indiana still is kind of facing that, and I think you're insane for doubting Curt Cignetti if you do. I have lost a lot of social online discussions as a result of semi-doubting him. But I still think that Indiana has a ways to go in terms of total time and spotlight before their logo is viewed the same way, like gives you the same melatonin releases when you see LSU on a graphic previewing a big game on Saturday.
Well, and to go back to the Oregon example, the last time Oregon had a bad season, 10 seasons ago, it was right. 2017 when Mark Helfrich got fired. They have been good every year since then.
Yeah.
So that's why now when we see that over there, it's like, oh yeah, they're
pretty good.
They're always good.
Yeah, they're going to be good. And I think we'll get to the point where you just shrug. Oh yeah, Indiana's going to be good. But again, Curt Cignetti, you're the best. No one's doubting you. But I do think that
people. No, we're not doubting him. People are definitely still doubting him, and I'm sure he loves that.
I mean, it would be so much easier to doubt him, Andy, if there weren't a bunch of IU names on this list. It's like we already know definitively that he's a good coach and he can get his team playing mistake-free fundamental football. Like that's already proven beyond the shadow of a doubt. Now, the other question would be in terms of sustainability. It would be, well, can he get the players in there still? Well, look at the list. Like it's right there. Like he has the players again.
Yeah.
So,
but again, bunch of Texas players on that list. You see some Texas Tech on there, which explains why we're very high on Texas Tech winning the Big 12 again. But got a little Houston in there. Got Kelly Jones, the corner from Mississippi State, who is awesome and who is potentially a first round draft pick. So it's not all consolidated at the same schools. And I think that's one interesting thing about this list is I see one G and one Block O on the first team. Whereas in the last, 10 years, it would have been dominated with G's and Block O's and then Script A. And we don't even see a Script A at all on there.
Can I give you
two Block O's, two Ohio State guys. Sorry.
Another observation. Because we did have Rhett Lashley on the show last week talking about how the ACC is very good. I only see one ACC logo on there. Am I missing one?
I think you're right. Oh, by the way, that is one Block O. I was right the first time. Jeremiah Smith is the one.
Yes.
Nobody on the defense, because remember, all of those guys went to the NFL. There's a bunch of young defensive players at Ohio State who, by the way, maybe first team. Some of them may be first team All-Americans by the end of the season.
Yeah, there's a lot of young players on Ohio State's defense. Kenyatta Jackson's a name that I would circle on there. As because these lists are great and it's a good Luke
Pettyjohn. Yeah. There's some dudes that'll pop up that you're gonna remember by the
these
end
lists
of the season,
are fun because they're good guided trails into the season. But when you get into the season, guys, if you're gonna hike, you're not staying on the trail. Not in college football. Yeah. So we'll see.
That's exactly right. Well. No Gators on that list. None at all.
No.
I don't believe there were any on the first team. Oh, wait. Jaden Baugh might be on here somewhere. But
I mean, if he's not.
Jaden Baugh is a third team All-American on our list. So that is not what Florida fans were used to. It is kind of now what they're used to. And that's why John Sumrall is there. They're trying to fix that. They introduced something on Monday, Ari, harkening back. It's interesting because it harkens back to a time when Florida still had not gotten to the top of college football, but it's a celebration of the guy who got them there. So Florida unveiled the 1966 throwback, Steve Spurrier throwback, celebration jerseys, because obviously Steve Spurrier won the Heisman Trophy in 1966. They're celebrating that achievement this year. Ari, these uniforms are fire. They are amazing.
I love them. I think, didn't we rank them? I might not have taken them. We were doing throwback draft.
Yeah, I used the ones from 2000 that they wore in 2006, which was a white helmet with a block F. So this is the blue helmet with the block F in the circle, and then the white on white with the shoulder yokes and the matching pant stripes.
They're perfect.
This is a beautiful uniform. Beautiful uniform. Cannot wait to see them wear these.
It's the thing that's been true about Florida is that blue and orange. I don't know if they have fancy names for the shades of blue and orange there. I know sometimes
they actually don't.
People.
They just say orange and blue. It's the orange of the sunshine and the blue of the water.
It's maybe the most beautiful color combination in sport. Like this gives me some like Denver Broncos throwback feels, with the D with the Bronco coming through it. Like, I mean, those are some beautiful, beautiful uniforms. But man, I will say that I think that the actual Gator logo that is typically on their helmet might be one of the best logos in all of sports. So the throwback emblem, but like the actual uniform.
Well, the script Gators is a throwback in and of itself because it came in the 70s.
But Florida has like some of the best swag in college football, and I think that is a very tasteful, beautiful uniform because it looks old, but it's also modernized in a really nice way. Like if they wore that every week, that wouldn't look out of place in today's game.
I would see. As much as everybody loves the orange helmet with the script Gators on it, I like these throwbacks. I've always liked the block F throwbacks, probably better than the classic helmet. So if they changed to this and wanted to wear this every week, I'd be cool with that. But I know most Florida grads would disagree with me. So I please don't revoke my degree. But
did they tell you what game they're playing? They're wearing these in yet?
Or they have not announced which game it is yet. They have said that they would be celebrating the 1966 and 96 teams at the South Carolina game on October 10th, but that's a home game and this is a white uniform. So I don't know if that's necessarily the plan. But like Georgia has introduced that all white uniform last week that they are going to wear in a home game against Western Kentucky. So I guess maybe those rules don't apply as long as the teams agree to it. So who knows?
Yeah, I always thought that like it was the home team that got to decide what the color scheme is and the other team had to.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about Steve Spurrier here. He used to always mess with LSU on this one because LSU likes to wear white at home. So I think the road team had to say okay to that. But he would always, when LSU came to Gainesville, say, we're going to wear white, so you got to wear something else. Not always, but occasionally when he wanted to needle them, when he wanted to mess with them, he'd be like, we're going to wear the white, our whites at home just because our crowd never gets to see it. And y'all would have to wear a color jersey instead of the white ones.
Every single time we show a picture of Spurrier, he's just so swagged out in like 80s and 90s gear.
That's the thing. He's wearing the classic 90s coaching polo with the horizontal stripes and pleated pants, and he's still swaggier than anybody you've ever met.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was talking to River about this before you came in this morning, but like the 90s are back in fashion. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh yeah.
I bought a starter jacket.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Like all the ads. I think it's going to be, time's a flat circle, goes around in circles and, things come back. But Andy, I think that the most interesting discussion about this, obviously we agree the uniforms are beautiful. I think most people watching the show would agree because it's aesthetically pleasing. But, Spurrier is somebody that you're intimately connected to, having, at least played for him, quasi played for him, right? And been around.
Human tackling nubbed for him. Yes.
But I think that Florida has been in this never-ending search since he left, and maybe I guess Urban Meyer filled that gap for a few years. Although,
it's funny because Urban won twice as many national titles at Florida as Steve Spurrier won, but the fan base never did embrace him the same way. And I remember though, so funny because if they won games, even with Urban, they couldn't win them by enough because he didn't beat teams the way Steve Spurrier beat teams. Like if Steve Spurrier I'd say he's the ghost that everybody's chasing, but he's lives in town and everybody sees him every day.
I remember when I came to Gainesville and I spoke to the quarterback club in Gainesville. Wonderful group of people, had a great time last year. But this was during the peak of what's Billy Napier's future, or who would they get to replace him in discussions. And we got to have some beers and talk to some people in the hallway, very nice people. But everybody was framing it like who's the most like Steve Spurrier? That was like what everybody wanted. And you were talking, you had different candidates or whatever. And I'm wondering, because of John Sumrall's clapback to the pedicure thing last week on Twitter and like kind of the swag that he has, is this the closest personality wise Florida has gotten? Now, obviously winning is the harder part, but from a personality standpoint, how would you compare John Sumrall to Spurrier? And do you think there's a chance that they could kind of maybe fill that gap a little bit?
I definitely think he's very close. I actually think Will Muschamp, just unfiltered Will Muschamp, not worrying about what he says in front of the mic, would have been the closest thing to Steve Spurrier. And in fact, they got along really well, because remember, Steve Spurrier was the coach at South Carolina while Muschamp was the coach at Florida. Like when they had the SEC coaches meetings, like those two always got along the best. And Muschamp idolized Spurrier and wanted to win like him, but felt like he couldn't really let it rip and be funny like Spurrier unless he was winning more. And so he never got to that point. Sumrall, I don't think cares. Like you got the clapback on, was it clapback on Dan Orlovsky with the pedicures? You heard him cracking jokes at SEC Media Days. He does not care. The difference is, like, he said something in his press conference on Monday that I don't think I would ever expect to hear from Steve Spurrier, but people were asking about coaching hard and doing that in this environment. And here's what he said.
Our job is to always be demanding that the standard is really, really high and it never wavers. I'm not necessarily into breaking a player down. I am into making things hard. Like, this is a challenging game and tough teams win. And so I think you have to embrace a level of toughness and grit it takes to be successful. I don't have a desire to really break anything down, but I do want our guys to be challenged to the point that they're mentally tough and they can overcome adversity, because there's going to be adversity. And so we create adverse situations every day in practice. But I'm never really prescribed to, like, let's break them down. Now, I do prescribe to the theory of, like, let's push them to the edge. Like, let's make it right there. Let's put our toe right on that line of how hard can we make this. But I don't want guys to break down, because I want them to all be available. And so I mean, we coach them really, really hard all the time. The guys are, and if they're not coachable or don't want to get coached, then I don't want them to come here, because it's not going to be a good fit. But I don't really prescribe to, like, breaking anybody down. Yeah, I don't know. I want to always build them up, but sometimes you build them up by being hard as shit. I mean, that's like just the truth. Sometimes it's got to be really, really freaking hard to build them up. But I don't want to ever break them down, because they're broke down. They're not any good.
Now, Spurrier did not take any prisoners in interviews, but I don't think he would break down exactly like how he'd yell at a player. And it's interesting, because, like, I understand the dynamics of Coach Spurrier's program probably better than any of them, because I was there. And if you were a quarterback or receiver, like, Steve Spurrier was all over you at all times. If you played any other position, he was the good cop to your position coach's bad cop. So, like, you didn't look at him as like this terrifying figure, whereas John Sumrall clearly wants to coach hard, clearly wants his team to have an edge. And I don't think that's any different from what you'd hear Kirby Smart say, or what you'd hear, Kurt Cignetti say, or Kyle Whittingham. I think all those guys are kind of a piece. But Sumrall just has a way of putting it that makes you laugh or makes you go, oh, wow, he's got an edge to him. That's what Spurrier had. Spurrier was not afraid to be a little bit edgy.
Yeah. So this is probably going to bleed into the final topic that we have on our show, and I don't want to go too quickly. But lately, people have, in coaching, and some ADs have failed to do so, as we'll get to later, tried to be the clever, funny digster before ever even coaching in a game. Kurt Cignetti did it and was successful. Do you think that what Will Muschamp struggled with, which was talking his talk before winning big, do you actually think that the actual talk and the swag comes first and then the belief comes second? Like, or do you subscribe to the way that Will Muschamp?
No, if Muschamp had wanted to, he would have been the funniest coach in the SEC. He felt like it wasn't right to do if he wasn't winning big. That was just a personal preference on his part.
Do you think if he would have been the funniest coach in the SEC from the jump, that would have had any positive impact on his ability to win big?
No, I think choosing better offensive coordinators at Florida from the jump, I think would have changed everything. I think having a little bit more forward-thinking philosophy as seeing where the game was going, that probably would have done.
I go a little galaxy brain all the time, and bless you for dealing with it. But I do wonder if, like, you're an Indiana player and you hear your coach getting mad in public when people doubt that you will win games. Like, because the thing about Curt Cignetti was he had the quips, but behind the scenes, if you questioned his points, it would actually anger him, because, like, he didn't just say stuff, he believed it. And I do believe that if you go in and you say, well, we win, all we do is win, we're going to win, and you remind your team of that every day and then say that publicly, that does have a positive impact on the way people view the program. Like I do. Again, if you don't have the right players or you don't have the right coordinators, you're not going to win. There's things that you can't overcome. But I do believe that thought and belief is a huge thing. And I'm not even a Ted Lasso fan. I actually do believe that
Spurrier
matters.
Spurrier made you believe that you were going to win. He made you believe that every time you set foot on that field, you're going to win.
Yeah. I mean, if you wonder how Indiana got rolling, well, it's no wonder they got rolling. They all heard their coach say it was going to happen. And then when it happened once, everybody's like, oh God, this is going to happen a lot. And then it happened a lot.
Yeah. And I think Sumrall, he can say all he wants. We want a tough team. We're going to make it a tough environment. But you have to actually do that. And I do believe they actually do that at practice. Because if you look at his Troy teams and you look at his Tulane teams, they were tough. So he's got proof of concept on this already. Now he has to prove it at the highest level now, because he's at a big school with big expectations. So he's still got to prove it. But so far, so good on that stuff. And he's gonna be himself and be funny and doesn't seem to mind letting it rip. And I don't think he cares one way or the other. Like, he's not waiting for, I got to win an SEC championship before I let my personality show. He's just going to show it.
Yeah. I mean, I also kind of believe too that saying you're going to be tough and you're going to instill toughness is something that every coach in America says. I think there's just a way of how you say it. And like Rich Rodriguez is probably one of the toughest old school coaches in the country, and they're not in the national champion discussion right now. Like, a lot of people want to be tough.
Well, and go back to Spurrier. Like I said, he'd rip a quarterback up and down and a receiver, and there were coaches on the staff that would absolutely tear you to shreds. There were other coaches on the staff who that wasn't their style. And it works all those ways as long as you have the right mix of it. So I think there's no one way to do it. There's no perfect way to do it, but I'm gonna be fascinated to watch Sumrall going forward, because again, he's checked all these boxes. And when we were at that Gainesville quarterback club meeting and we were talking, I came up with my wish list, what I think, from talking to all the Florida fans, what their wish list for a coach is. Scores a lot of points, wears a visor, talks shit. Like, those are the three wishes. And by the way, there was a guy who fit that profile to a T, and his name was Lane Kiffin, and they didn't get him. So John Sumrall wears a hat.
Yeah.
He's a defensive guy, and he talks shit. So you only got one of the three, but you may end up happy with it.
I mean, you also could just like throw on the visor one day. Eli Drinkwitz was your other person who qualified for that.
Eli Drinkwitz definitely qualified. He did, yeah. So
that Florida hat that they keep posting in the B-roll or in the background with this picture, man. I tried to find it online because I wanted to buy it for myself, and it just says Florida and has a Jordan logo on it. That's the coolest hat I've seen in a long time.
See, my head does not that does not fit my head shape well at all. I would look like an 8-year-old.
Surprisingly, Andy, I've got a very small head. You would never know it. Do you know what hat size I wear?
6 7/8.
No, it's not that small. I'm a 7 1/8.
Okay,
but people look at me and go, "What are you, like a 7 7/8?" I'm like, "No. I know I'm a larger guy, but like I have a normal sized head."
You have a giant dome. You have a giant dome on video. I think it's the way we're shot in these shows. Our heads just look enormous, and
I also have a big hair.
I have a very long neck, so I look like a bobblehead.
Yeah, I've got big hair too, so it's like it.
But the Sumrall thing is fascinating to me because none of this, like, if they were to come out of the gates and beat Florida Atlantic, beat Campbell, but then lose to Auburn and Ole Miss in consecutive weeks, none of this will matter to anyone. The fan base won't care. They'll be out for blood. But if he wins those games, oh my God. They're like, we found the next Steve Spurrier.
I have some hope. I don't know that it's going to be this year, although Dallas Wilson, hey, buddy, you're going to be a first-team postseason All-American? Are you Jaden
I'll give you a name. Fletcher Westphal, offensive tackle, was coming off of off-season surgery. They think he's going to be able to play. That is good news because we talked to Sumrall, remember, at SEC Media Days about how many offensive line were, quote-unquote, above the line. Having another one of those would be very helpful. Very helpful indeed. So,
also, I don't know if you saw this, but Bruce Feldman at The Athletic released his freaks list on Monday. There's another Gator that's very high up on his freaks list.
Jaden Woods, baby.
Jaden Woods, one of the most important retention jobs of the offseason. I know that, he might not be the flashiest, sexiest player nationally in terms of who's exciting, but he's got something too.
I was in the gym yesterday, Ari, and I was watching someone try to do power cleans, and they were not doing. Their technique was terrible, and I wanted to just put that Jaden Woods 405-pound power clean on my phone and just set it in front of him and be like, no, do it like this, but not that much weight. Please do it with less weight. Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to read the reasons why he was on the freaks list, but I think that, everybody who is on that list to some degree has some sort of freakish ability in the weight room. Power cleaning in general is an exercise that I see people do that I can't understand how they don't get injured every time they do it, by the way, because if I try to do it one time, I think I would die.
Technique. That's why I was worried for this gentleman next to me on the platform, because I was like, I'm going to have to tell the EMTs why his back just exploded. And I don't want to be here when that happens.
Yeah. So, I don't even know what muscle we're working on that exercise. That's legs and back.
We're working on everything. It's explosion. You're working on your explosiveness.
Okay. So there's no reason why I ever have to do that.
No, you don't need to explode for any reason. So
yeah.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to do those anymore either. I'm old. But yeah, cannot wait to see what Sumrall turns into, because if he wins, his penchant for letting it rip verbally is going to make him very interesting, but he has to win.
Well, the fact that we've even gotten 10% of it before he's ever coached a game probably shows you that because I think that Will Muschamp's viewpoint is probably very regular. Now, Curt Cignetti's an alien in that regard, that he just let it rip 100% right out of the gate. But could you imagine if Florida starts 5-0 the way that it'll be, or if they get to the playoff?
Oh.
I mean, next offseason, I think that, you can get a window into someone's personality before they ever coach. And I think it's a pretty good start for Florida. I'm pretty excited to see what he does. And the good news for him is that he's got a 2-week runway at the beginning of the year that they should be 2-0. And, I think we'll know what we have after that Auburn game on September 19th.
I think we absolutely will. And look, after that comes Ole Miss and at Missouri. So it is going to be baptism by fire, seems like the way to put it. All right, let's talk about somebody else who came in shooting from the hip, and I think very much wishes he hadn't. Now, Tommy McClellan, the Purdue AD. So we were at Ohio State when this happened, and then the video started filtering out, and we'd already finished our shows for the week, and we didn't get a chance to address this, but holy crap. Okay, here's Tommy McClellan introducing himself as the Purdue AD.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
Okay. It's not the sentiment that's wrong. It's the way he said it. And also, he's apologized for this. He went on Pat McAfee and said he was doing great, except for the one unscripted comment he made that he knew the minute it left his mouth that was going to be a problem. That wasn't unscripted. We just watched you read it off whatever you were reading it off of. So you scripted it. You just scripted it poorly. He's trying to be Cignetti there, right? This is supposed to be the Cignetti speech at the basketball game right after Cignetti gets hired, when he basically says that they're going to beat Michigan and Ohio State and they're going to crush Purdue, obviously, because that's Indiana's main rival. And everybody's like, well, of course you go after Purdue, but what are you doing, Curt Cignetti, going after Michigan and Ohio State? And they actually beat Michigan that year, lost to Ohio State, but then beat Ohio State the next year in the Big Ten championship game.
Can I just provide you with an edit? What if he would have just said, from this day forward, Indiana's the past, we're the future? Same exact idea.
That would be great.
It just, what he said didn't make any sense, so it didn't land. Like, I understand.
Well, you can't, you can't say if you want to win championships, don't go to Indiana. They literally just won the championship.
Nobody has won the championship more recently. They are the champions in this current moment. But if you would have said Indiana was cute last year, wait till you see what we do, or something that made sense, like the idea that he was like, I know everybody was ripping him to shreds, and I think partially because it didn't make sense as he was reading it off. Like, it wasn't even like it was like he wrote it wrong, which is bad.
Yes.
But I do respect the attempt to rally your fan base, and like, I'm not going to rip him to shreds for it. I just wish the execution was a little bit better.
Right. And here's why. Because we laughed at Curt Cignetti when he did that, but he was right. So why can't Purdue do that? Like 2 years ago, him saying that in Indiana, we'd be like, that's impossible in Indiana. He just showed us it's possible. Purdue's been good more recently. Purdue was in the Big Ten championship game this decade.
Andy,
like,
Will Stein just said, because of me at SEC Media Days. This is becoming more and more trendy. A lot of people are saying things that are out of pocket based on where they are on the food chain, because guess what, man? You know, the food chain that you learn in high school science class in the animal kingdom is permanent. Like, that doesn't change. Like, the shark will beat the guppy every time. But now the guppy is the defending national champ. Places at Purdue, places like Kentucky that aren't traditional powers in football can actually talk their shit and maybe be right one day. Like that, and that I think is an exciting time. So, I don't think I'm going to give him an A for attempt, but like an F in execution. Like, I think that everybody should attempt to call their shot. Everybody wants to be Babe Ruth and point at the stands. It's just what he did was, Babe Ruth pointing at the stands, and then he swung and missed.
No, he actually foul tipped it into his own face. That's what he said. But I mean, listen,
can somebody get a writer in there for him? I could have written something badass for him. Just give me a call next time. If you want to talk garbage publicly for the first time ever, I would love to write your jokes.
Do we think Cignetti is going to be somewhat merciless on Old Oaken Bucket Day because of this? I would if I were him.
Somebody did the projected spread of the game before and after and added 35 points. So I don't think. I mean, think about what Indiana did to Illinois last year, and that was a good team. Like, that was the single biggest beatdown of last year, and obviously I'm sure that Curt Cignetti's also already very much.
I mean, Indiana beat the crap out of Purdue last year too, but that was when they hadn't really given them any reason to.
But when you're a rival, you're a rival. So, I would be pretty on high alert for that, for sure.
Yeah, they won that game 58-3 last year. So he might try to score 100 just because of that comment, which is great.
And he probably will.
Listen, it's up to Purdue to figure that out.
Yeah.
The beauty of this is, as I tell my kids, you can talk your shit all you want, but you better be prepared to back it up.
Just write better.
Yeah, write better jokes.
Writing is like a lost
Adam
art.
Vinatieri, write better jokes.
Oh, by the way, he made it rain, didn't he?
He did. Now he also wasn't fully committed to the bit. Like, he was not sure. Like, you could tell he was a little reading. And am I really going to go there on this Bill Belichick girlfriend joke? Yeah, I'm going there.
Yeah,
listen, you have to decide going in. This is me. And that's the difference between Tommy McClellan and Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti wasn't reading from anything. He's standing in front of a packed basketball arena going, we're going after Michigan and Ohio State. And everybody's like, oh. And you like remember they paused for a second and then they cheered. Like
I'm actually going to change
I don't know how
my
to feel
grade
about
from A for attempt to C, because you have to believe it too. If you write it down, it's not as believable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to
Cincinnati
believe it.
believed it.
Like get up there and be like, we're coming after you, Indiana. We saw what you did. We know we can do better. We had Drew Brees. We had Rondell Moore. May he rest in peace.
Do you even think like if he would have executed it properly, people would have made fun of them? Like, because I don't think like you said this thing earlier that people made fun of Cignetti last year. Maybe it's just been so long I forgot. But the one thing that
people crushed Cignetti for that.
Yeah,
he hadn't coached a game yet.
But I remember
you're thinking it came between year 1 and year 2. It didn't. It came right when he got the job. So he's taking over 3-19.
Was also like a regular guest on every podcast and became like a sensation in a way that he would have been relatively anonymous, random Indiana hire that no one gave a shit about. But then he said that, and then he was on our show a few months later. So like, I do think that there is some everyone makes fun of, but I think there's more positives in the long run for putting yourself out there than there are negatives of like the Twitter jokes that people are going to put on there. And you have to also remember that Indiana this past week, as they were on for Big Ten Media Day and stuff, it had like notable game, Purdue on there, and people are like, oh, look at this joke of a schedule. Purdue's a notable game, like forgetting that it's a rivalry. But that's what they think of you, Purdue. The fact that you're even on a graphic as a notable game for Indiana is a laughing stock. Like you have to do something to shake it up a little bit. And he tried, and it just didn't work.
And credit to him for going on Pat McAfee, which is probably the biggest sports show in America now, and facing the heat. So I think Tom McClellan's going to be just fine.
Do you think that facing the heat was good or bad? I would have just been like, I said what I said. Okay.
I think it's good. But yeah, you got to say it with your chest. Like Cignetti says it with his chest. Sumrall, we just talked about him, says stuff with his chest.
That's a good t-shirt for Andy Ari. Say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest. Say it with your size 7 1/8 head.
Yeah. Great head. Great head of hair, great head size. But, I'm really excited, Andy. Tomorrow we have our, I believe, is our On3 top 25. We get to actually look at people who paid attention to the voting. I spent a lot of time making sure I did this the proper way. I saw the rankings. People are going to enjoy it, and we're going to get really into it. We'll talk about some questions, too, about these teams. Some things to like, some things to dislike. It'll be fun.
Also, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin joins the show. And remember last year when we're like, Julian Sayin's good, but he's kind of skinny? He ain't skinny anymore, folks.
Not skinny.
He's been in the weight room. In the weight room. Julian Sayin on tomorrow's show. Top 25 on tomorrow's show. We're so close to football. I can taste it. Talk to you tomorrow.